أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي زدني علما ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair for inviting me to this blessed gathering where we are talking about one of the most important aspects in our communities, which is family life, and really how to strengthen it. And as Sister Sharifa has mentioned, um, and Professor Zeenat, I think a lot of what I wanted to cover has been said in different ways, alhamdulillah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the relationship between the husband and wife. And what Sister Sharifa has just really mentioned is actually how the current situation in the world in terms of our economic freedom and all the other freedoms that we've been given, this surface level freedom that we've been given, has really introduced many other shackles in our lives, where we've really lost a track of where our place is, where our duties are, and how we can contribute. So often what we find is that we are seeking our sort of life is being steered by pleasure, a certain sense of pride, pursuit of power, or just personal preference of what we want to do or what we don't want to do, how we view things, how we receive things. So it has really put a different lens to our eyes and our worldview. And if we look at the institution of marriage, institution of family, and in the last decade, in the last few decades, it's really been misunderstood. We've sort of steered away from the values of family, values of marriage in such a way that we've lost the essence of what it should be. And if we think about, we normally tend to use the institution of marriage being a cornerstone of society, but at the same time, it's supposed to be the foundation on which a family grows, as Sister Sharif has just mentioned as well, that marriage is where it all starts. And if we look at current situation of marriage, particularly in the Western world, and I think it's very true in other parts of the world as well, marriage is increasingly seeming to be a 50-50 partnership or for purposes of personal pleasure rather than the duty and sacrifice. In turn, it's sort of evolving into situations where there's real tension in family, in marriages, where the rate of divorce is increasing, as Professor Zeenat has mentioned, not just in the Western world as per se, but it's all over the world. Muslim families, Muslim countries, households, there's tensions that are developing within those institutions. So really, what can we do to strengthen the bonds of marriage between the husband and the wife is what I wanted to pursue. And as we know, our deen, as we celebrate this deen to be the most beautiful deen, to give us this wonderful blue sort of the roadmap to success. And we know that, in Islam, marriage is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings together. And it's a holy union. It sounds very Christian, but if you think about even within the Muslim faith, in the tradition, it is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala binds together. And why is it so important? Because within marriage, we enjoy a personal, physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual bond, which is blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we have done it for His pleasure. We can have all those relationships outside of marriage, but when we do that outside of marriage, it is considered to be a sin. And when we do that within the bonds of marriage, not only is it celebrated, we are rewarded abundantly by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we look at this ripple effect of the marriage, two people coming together, it used to be that as the beginning of the family, and the family to be the foundation of society. And that's where I really want to focus on as sort of the foundation of the institution of marriage. And as we have already said, this is a famous verse that is always mentioned when it comes to marriage, when it comes to the bonds of marriage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Rum that another of his signs is that he created spouses from among yourselves for you to live with in tranquility. He ordained love and kindness between you. There truly are signs in this for those who reflect. And I'm really going to focus on this verse quite a lot throughout the session and that I have. It starts off with tranquility. It starts off with living in tranquility, and tranquility is our goal. This is what we want to achieve in this marriage that we're in. So this verse beautifully captures the goal, the vision that we enter a marriage in, which is tranquility. We don't earn it the first day that we go into a marriage. It is actually, that is what we are working towards. It's the tranquility. And how do we wish to achieve that tranquility is through the love, the kindness that we show each other that is between us. And really, if we reflect on this verse, it is a blueprint. It is a blueprint to how a marriage should be, how we conduct ourselves with each other. And on the left, I mentioned a hadith, which is that Prophet Islam has come to perfect our good character. And really, you can't enter a marriage or be in a marriage and expect tranquility if we don't take responsibility of our character. And only I can take responsibility of my own character. And through that modeling, I can hope that the character of somebody else may change. And it's a hope, it's a wish, it's a dream. But ultimately, it is up to me to safeguard my own character within this marriage. And as soon as you deter from that and wish that somebody else is going to somehow shape this marriage like our spouses, then we lose track, because we then start to blame, we then start to resent, we then start to breed other sorts of feelings which are not conducive to achieving the tranquility that we are so desiring. So when we think about this verse and move on, what this verse is actually stating two key ingredients that a wife requires from her husband. And those ingredients are love and security. So when you think about love and security, Muadda, what Prophet Islam is saying is that the best of you is the one who's best to his wife, and I'm the best of you to my wife. So how do I feel loved? How do I feel loved by my husband will be not just how he does things for me. As women, we expect to be shown love as well. So with our husbands necessarily might not know how to show us love unless we tell them, we express, we visualize and articulate how it is that I want to be shown that love. And when it comes to security, one of the key things, and it's amazing that verse mentions love and kindness, because that's what creates security for a woman. When we feel secure, security means that I don't want to be at the receiving end of pain and fear when it comes to a relationship with my husband. I don't want to live in fear. I don't want to live in a situation where I feel hurt, where I constantly feel belittled and not worthwhile. So my self-worth isn't valued and isn't celebrated, isn't captured within that relationship. So the way this happens is, again, we have beautiful verses that are mentioned here, that men are the protectors and the maintainers of women, with bounties God has given to some more than others, with that they spend out of their own money. So money, again, you can buy wonderful gifts for your spouse, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't come with the kindness and the love that should be with that gift, there's no meaning to that gift. It has no value to that gift. Also, when you are giving gifts to your spouse and it precedes it is terror, where you've been abusive, and you follow it up with a gift, normally that is seen as abuse, because it is like using your power to show privilege, give somebody a gift to say sorry when you're asking them to forget. So again, we need to be very, very careful how we maintain that security when it comes to our spouses. So this is something that we women as wives really yearn for, is a sense of security. The other part, the verse that is so beautiful is from Surah Baqarah, verse 187, where we are seen as garments of one another. And being garments of one another is a sense of security. Our garments protect us from the weather. Our garments protect us from the flaws that we might have, right? The physical flaws that we might have. Our garments protect us from lewd glances from other people. So really what we want from each other as spouses is this protection, this security of knowing that you accept me as I am, that beneath, take away all the garments, we are acceptable, we are revered, we are shown love and kindness in that intimacy that we have. So this idea of security and love is very crucial when it comes to the what the wife yearns from a relationship with her husband. And it's interesting that, you know, Warren, there's a research that's been done that when a couple is able to increase their cognitive self-disclosure, it is an incredible way of increasing the level of intimacy between a couple. And what do we mean by cognitive self-disclosure? It's really, you know, how do I want to resolve conflict? How do I want to be shown love? How do I want to be seen when I'm losing the plot, when I'm really angry? How do I want my spouse to respond to me? All of those are ways of disclosing aspects to ourselves which we normally don't tend to disclose in public. So the more we can do that as a couple, have those difficult conversations, the higher that our level of intimacy will be, inshallah. So these two things are what we require from our husbands. And there are also two things our husbands require from us as wives. And when it comes to our husbands, it kind of swaps a little bit. What they really desire from us, and according to the verses and the hadith that's often narrated about our duties to our husbands, is really the respect. When we are able to show respect to our husbands, it naturally transforms into love in their eyes. Yeah. So what do we mean by respect? So respect is how we show consideration for them, how we respect their value, their contribution for the family, how we respect their pace, you know, how fast or slow they do things. When they come home, the warmth we provide them. And we could be both working couple, but at the end of the day, when it, you know, if you think about the Islamic institution of marriage, the prime role of a husband is to earn for the family. Now, if we have decided together that we are both going to contribute financially, that is, you know, the choices that we have as a couple. But ultimately, it is the role of the husband to protect the family when it comes to the financial taking care of the family. So when you think about those kind of duties that the husband has, it's also up to us to be kind and merciful to them. What is my expectation of a lifestyle that I want to have? Am I requiring a lifestyle that drives my husband to get the second job and the third job? Or am I satisfied with the little that I have and rather have him home so that he can be part of the household and taking care of the family? Like this beautiful hadith again narrates our duties. So the man's duty is to be a guardian of his family and is responsible for them. And our duty as women, as wives, is to look after his wealth, which is his home and his children in his absence. And also myself, how I conduct myself in his absence is very important. So we are each responsible for the flock that we lead and the responsibilities that we have. And when we show love to our husbands, what does that look like? So again, men are encouraged to marry women who are loving and who are fertile. But also, if we look at the beautiful story of Khadija radiallahu anha, when our husbands are in distress, how do we respond to them? When our husbands are down, how do we pick them up? And here we have this beautiful example where Khadija radiallahu anha uses his natural gifts and talents, his character, to lift him up. So when he came trembling from receiving the first revelation, she comforted him by saying that he was a kind person. He had good relations with his relatives. He speaks the truth. He helps the poor and the destitute. He entertains his guests. He's generous, and he assists those who are stricken by calamity. Now, we are all born with given gifts and talents by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to seek those out within each other as a couple. And really, when we are down, those are the gifts and talents that we need to resort to in order to pick each other up and really show that empathy, show that love and rahmah in our interactions with our spouses. And if you look at the hadith and the verse on the left, it really requires gratitude. So those two aspects that we've mentioned. So we've mentioned love, respect, and security. If you look at those three things, they all require a sense of gratitude, an attitude of gratitude that we should all have. And if we do not learn to thank each other as a couple, then we really won't know how to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, when we lose track of being grateful, you then just focus on the negative. It's so easy just to focus on the negative and pick on the other rather than look at your own weaknesses. And we are guaranteed that when we are grateful, Allah will increase us. And He doesn't say increase us in what, but He will increase us in His favor. And He will, give us things that we don't expect, give us blessings in areas we might be struggling, but when we are grateful as a couple, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless us with things that we do not expect and greater than we expect, inshallah. So really, what are the key things? There's so many things I could have chosen, and I'm sure you will be able to contribute a lot more to what really are the key ingredients to a happy marriage, a contented marriage, what will increase the bonds between a husband and wife. First of all, I really wanted to draw attention to our focus on Allah. So as a couple, as Muslim couples, I'm assuming many of us who have joined today, this is what our desire is, that tranquility. And that tranquility will come from really learning together how we as a couple can learn to love Allah and to serve Him. So whatever we do should be an act of worship. And as we know, subhanAllah, within a marriage, the most intimate, the most private relationship that we have, even in that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us to make a dua. There's a dua that we can make so that our progeny is pure, that what we bring forth from that intimacy is going to be for the love of Allah, inshallah, in His service. So with each of these, there are many hadith, there are verses from the Quran, and we may be familiar with many of them, but I just wanted to share some of them. So all of these that I've mentioned are embedded in the love that we develop through being able to do these, but they also require time, investment of time. So if we as a couple are not investing time in the marriage, it's going to be very difficult to nurture that love and security and the respect that we so desire from each other. So in terms of time, we all as couples, we should seek out couple time in the week, even if it's once a week. If that proves difficult, try it once a month and then build it up as you can. And that couple time is not really to talk about your finances, talk about the difficult conversations. This is the time to bond. This is date night as we know it, as I sometimes call it here. So it's really about finding out the nuanced person that the other is. So finding out what pleases them, finding out what interests them, taking part in their learning about the interests. I might not like it, but I can take an interest what they take interest in. So really investment of time will be required in order to develop that love. So that's what the bedrock of a marriage is. And within that, it's so important for us to make dua for ourselves, dua for our spouse, dua for each other, dua for this union, but also to invest time in sharing again how how we're going to express our love and affection for each other. We might not be touchy-feely. There's languages of love. There's 5 languages of love that we know exist. Again, working out what is my language of love. So being able to articulate it is very important. Being able to show the other is really important. As I mentioned before, respect embedded in gratitude is paramount in a relationship, but also forgiveness. So being able to forgive does not mean that you will forget. Being able to forgive starts with an intention that I for the sake of Allah, I want to forgive. And it's a journey. Forgiveness is not something that instantaneously happens. You see the results of it, and you can celebrate it and see the change in your family. But it's a process. It's a process of purification in each of us as a spouse. So being able to forgive is the opposite to that is that you're full of resentment, you're full of anger, you're full of frustration, right? In the absence of being able to forgive, your vessel is full of anger, frustration, and resentment, and retribution could be as well. And when your inner vessel hosts all these emotions, it's very difficult to see the good in somebody else. And in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about you have the right to retribution, but he ends that verse by saying that those who can forgive are better. Yeah, those who forgive reaches a higher status. And the reason for that is that the opposite to forgiveness eats away at, it's like an acid that eats away at the material that it sits in. Similarly, those emotions also eat away at our inner vessel, the heart, the love and the rahmah that we want to exercise. Being able to forgive, so how it affects us physically, being able to forgive also affects us physically. And there's some research done that shows that when you're able to forgive, even when you make the intention to forgive, your body actually physically feels lighter. The burden that you feel of feeling resentful and angry, when you make the choice to forgive, it actually lifts the burden that you feel as well. So the idea of that is that when you learn to forgive, or when you make the intention to forgive, it's easier to be able to overcome that hurdle that you have been seated in, what you've just experienced. So the forgiveness is really important in a couple relationship because it upholds the dignity of the other. And when we talk about dignity, it's actually being encouraging, being inspiring, being able to nurture the self-esteem in the other, which will naturally lift yours as well, because it's a sense of service, it's giving. And the last one here is trust and consultation. So when you trust is something that increases with transparency, with communication, with giving, with service, but also consultation. In this day and age, sometimes I wonder if there's any need to consult, because I have my own money, I have my own earnings, I have my own way of parenting, I have my own view of life, I have my own political leanings. I'm an individual. Sometimes you can lead a parallel life as a couple and think you're doing a great job, but this lockdown has actually really brought that to the fore, that actually there's issues in the couple because we're not communicating, we're not talking, we're not consulting. We've just been where I'm leaving, you're coming in, where you're coming in, I'm leaving. This sort of has transpired and bring to the fore in this lockdown that we really have key issues. There is a lack of trust. There is a lack of consultation. There is a lack of upholding dignity and respect in a relationship, which really breaks away and what's the word I'm looking for? I've gone blank, but it really scratches and takes away that love. It puts it on the back burner a lot. And when that is on the back burner, what you have in front is the criticism, is the fault finding. And this is something which eats away at a relationship. So how do we manage conflict? So there's a research that's been done in 2013 where they've looked at couples 18 to 40. And what they found is that if you can communicate better in terms of how you divide, and I think Sister Sharifa mentioned this already, that how do you divide household labor? And we know our Prophet ﷺ was very much a part of that as well. He was a statesman, but at the same time, he was very much part of the household chores as well. How do we manage our finances? How do we express our affection? If we can manage those three things, according to this research, you can positively increase marital satisfaction. And it's important for us to be able to do that. Although, yes, I'm the shepherd of my home and my husband is the leader of the finances, it doesn't mean that we can't come together on middle ground and decide and discuss and divide and consult and advise each other. Again, Gottman, as we know, is a huge research institution. And what they say that when there's a conflict, it's important for us to have a gentle startup. Don't go in there with guns blazing. Really have a gentle approach. Be compromising, and do so when you are calm, not in a state of anger. Take time out. So the importance of silence in a marriage is really important as well. That when there is conflict, use silence as a bridge to be able to think of what you need to do in order to come to a resolution when you revisit the conversation. So here, Aisha radiallahu anha was advised by Prophet ﷺ to show gentleness. For if gentleness is found in anything, it beautifies it. And when it is taken out, it damages it. So if we want to be of beautiful character, we should be gentle. And the most important people we need to be gentle with are our spouses. And I just wanted to say here that, the couple are the absolute role model for the children that they're going to have. If we invest in our marriage, parenting takes its natural course, and we're in a better place to be the best parents, inshallah, to our children. And again, Prophet, I'm saying that I guarantee a house in Jannah for the one who gives up arguing, even if he's in the right. For you to be able to say, peace, I know you are, what you're saying might not be right, and I know I might be right, but for the sake of it, I agree to disagree and just leave it as where it is. So somebody being able to put water on the flames, it's really important within a couple, and don't always expect the other to do it. The reward is in me being able to do that, inshallah. So just a couple of slides left, and I'm conscious of time. So Evan Coons has said in his letter on the economy of love that we learn our nature of love not in grand gestures to save the world, but in the normal everyday struggle to love, to encourage, to bless those beside us. In family, our character is formed and given to the world. So if we are horrible within our family, you can't, you'll be exposed at some point to the outside world. So if you really want to contribute to the bigger world, and we are amazing leaders in the big wide world, it will catch up on us. So really our family is our practice. And if we can't be kind to them, it really shows that we genuinely are not kind. If we are not merciful to our family, we genuinely are not merciful in nature. It's a facade. It's something we wear when we are outside. And this is captured in Surah Al-Asr and the hadith below it. So, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. So what should we be like in this relationship? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by time. And I want that to be an indication that we invest time in our marriage. We are in loss except those who believe and do righteous good deeds, combine together as a couple to venture on good deeds and recommend to one another to the truth and abstain from all kinds of sins and evil deeds, and recommend to one another to patience. So really encouraging each other to the good. And Aisha radiallahu anha, this beautiful example of where Prophet ﷺ used to do his qiyam, and then he used to raise her for the witr prayer. So really being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being at the center of our relationship is really, really important. And I return back to the good character that I started with, that actually nothing is placed on the scale that is heavier than good character. Indeed, the person with good character will have attained the rank of the person of fasting and prayer. And I want to conclude with this dua. رَبَّنَا حَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ عَيْنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. And those who say, our Lord, grant us from among our wives and offspring comfort to our eyes and make us an example for the righteous. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us all to be the best of spouses, and inshallah may Allah put much barakah in our marriages, in the institution of marriage, so that we can go on to have a wonderful institution of the family, inshallah. So jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.